This video will demonstrate how I rigged up the Jetway using Gmax instead of 3D Studio Max, so that you can rig up your own jetways using IK. So here's the Jetway, and right now, for starters, I have it all separated out into individual pieces. You can see these are kind of all of the discrete pieces that create the Jetway here. And all of the different joints that will be rotating and sliding and such. And if you look at the hierarchy, you see there's 100 LOD, and then all of the pieces are linked to that 100 LOD. In this case, the 100 LOD is the staining that goes down on the ground to create the sort of parking space. So the first thing, and the reason I have them as discrete pieces right now, is that I will use these to actually create and align the bones and the bone structure, and then I will end up merging it all into a single piece and make it a single skinned object so that it takes one draw call to render. So the first thing to do is to verify that your texture, or that your material, excuse me, is actually a skinned material. So as you'll see, I've got the standard Jetway, specular, normal map, night texture, etc. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that I've got a skinned mesh selected here, and that will guarantee that this, when all the bones and the rig is inside it, it will skin up and it will act as a Jetway, but that will also take only a single draw call. So the first thing that needs to happen is you need to create the bone structure for this Jetway. In order to create the bone structure, what I will do is I will turn on the 3D snap toggle down here, and then I will set the snap toggle to pivot. And the reason you do that is so that you can align the bones to the I've already kind of predefined all of my pivots correctly, you can see, so they all pivot appropriately. So I've already aligned that, so that way when I draw the bones, the bones themselves will align to the pivots. So I'm going to select bones, and I'm going to choose the side view. The side view seems to work the best. Bones kind of have standard orientation anyways, but the side view seems to be the best for drawing them. So as you see, as you hover over it will lock to the pivot. So I'll start with the root node back here. I'll go to this next node here, and then the next one, and to the next one, and not the leg, but to the final one out there. And actually, I am going to create one last bone right there. And the reason for that is because you need an extra bone there to rotate the sort of mouth of the Jetway. Okay, so that's my basic bone structure for the main linkage of the Jetway. And now I want to create one for the legs of the Jetway. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to create a dummy down here, turn off the snap toggle, and just create a dummy down here at the base of the Jetway. And I'm going to set its position to be 0, and this will be used to create the IK handle that locks the wheels to the ground. So if I go back into the bones mode, and I turn my 3D snap toggle back on, so I can start with this one, cruise on down to this next guy there, and then down to this one there, and then actually I can just delete that little nub at the end. So now I want to take and I want to link this dummy to the bone I just created here, so that we have a hierarchy there for the IK handle. Okay, so now that I have my base bone structure, what I want to do is I want to actually skin up this model. So in order to skin it up, I need the model to be one whole object. So I'm going to select the root node, and basically I'm going to go in and I'm just going to start attaching all the rest of the objects. So now this is just becoming a single object here. So now we have one single object, and the next step is to skin that object. So from the drop down, we'll choose the skin modifier. And then you want to add in all of the bones. So now we have a skinned mesh with the bone skeleton there. However, if we were to, say, take one of the bones right now and rotate it, you'll see nothing happens, and it's because none of the actual skin has been set. So the next step is that we need to go through the skin, go through each bone, edit the envelopes, and set the skin so that it works on the vertices. So in this case, I'm going to turn off cross-sections and envelopes, and I'm just going to work on vertices. And the way you do this is basically you select the verts that you want to be assigned to bone 1, and then you turn the absolute effect all the way up to 1. And I'll do that with bone 2. I'll select this, that, and then kind of come to the end here and select this guy, and then turn that all the way up to 1. And then I'll just select bone 3 and do the same with that. And there's bone 3 right there. Turn that up to 1. Bone 4, I will do the same here. And in this case, you may want to change views, like to top-down view or something, so you can get a better grasp here on these particular vertices. Turn all these up to 1. Now bone 5 is going to be the rounded portion here at the end. And I'm actually, in order to make this a little easier, I'm just going to select all of this for now. And just assign it all to bone 5. Now bone 6, if I go back to front view, bone 6 is, that's the bone at the end, which is actually just going to serve to create the IK handle. So we'll go to bone 7, which is the bone here that represents the top of the legs of the jetway. And then bone 8, which is the final bone, which represents the rest of the jetway, which is all of that. So now I've actually got this skinned. I can turn off edit envelopes, and I should be able to just go in real quickly and rotate joints and see that they work. And sure enough, they do, except one mistake. I need to link this bone to that bone so that the legs will follow the body of the jetway. So if you go back in and select your bone, you now see that everything moves together. If I move it whatever angle, and then if I come here and grab this one, just the mouth moves. If I grab one of these bones, just the legs move, etc., etc., etc. So now the jetway is fully skinned, and it is ready to have limitations placed on it. And what the limitations do is they make sure that when the IK is solving, that it only solves in certain directions, so that you don't have joints that twist the wrong way. So the first limitation we're going to put on here is this main root limitation, and this is kind of the easiest one to do. So actually what we'll do is we'll grab this guy to start with. This is the root one. And so you see there's sliding joints and rotational joints here. Well, we're just going to turn off the rotational joints, because this really should not move at all. This is the root node. It doesn't move anywhere. So then we'll go to the next joint. This has no sliding joints, and by default sliding joints are off. So since this has no sliding joints in it, we'll just focus on the rotation. We'll see that if we go into local, we'll see that the y-axis here is the one that we want to work with. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn off the x-axis completely, because honestly we don't really want it rotating that way. So we're going to use the y-axis, and what we do is you check, make sure the y-axis is active, you check limited, and now you can set the actual limitation of how far this will rotate. So we'll go back about, that far, and then we'll go forward about that far. And now we have the limitations. When solving for the IK, it will never exceed those angles. Additionally, we want to get the angles for the up and down movement. And so the z-axis, we're going to really quickly do some limitations, so it should probably never get any lower than that. So there, now we have the z-axis limitation. So we have no x-axis, axis, y, and z. So the next joint, and this is where unfortunately bones in Max and Gmax get really hokey, is when you have sliding joints on bones. You kind of have to guess. It's really, unfortunately, very problematic. And you will see. So the first thing we'll do is we'll turn off the rotational joints, because we actually don't want these to rotate at all. But we do want them to slide. And we want them to slide along the x-axis. So we'll turn that on, active and limited, and here's where you see where things will get crazy. When you test your sliding joints with skinned meshes in bones, they fall apart, as you can see. However, this doesn't affect your mesh in the long run. So what you can do is you can, if you want to, you can put markers in. So if we go in here, we can go in and put a point in, say, there. That's the farthest, and then a point in, say, here. That's the farthest that it should go. and then this will allow you to have a somewhat of a guess of what's going to happen here. So we're going to go from that point basically to, and then we go to the second 2, and we go all the way out to roughly that point, give or take. And there you go. So now you have that sliding joint set. Now the next sliding joint is going to be this one here, and this one we want this one to go from about here to about there as well. So we're going to grab this, we're going to do the same thing, we're going to turn off all the rotational axes, turn them completely off, we're going to turn the x-axis on, limit it, and then we're going to go from about there to roughly there. So now we have our sliding defined. Now we can take these points and just get rid of them. So the next one is going to be this bone here at the mouth of the jetway. This one is not sliding, so we won't worry about that, and we'll just worry about rotation. And the rotation is only going to be in the y-axis. So we're going to turn off x, we're going to turn off z, we're going to limit y, and then we're going to kind of get into a view where we can see what's going on, and we're going to rotate it about that far, and then we're going to rotate it about that far. So now we have a limited axis there on the mouth of the jetway. So the next step is to do the legs of the jetway, and once again we're going to select this bone here, no sliding joint in this case, and in this case it looks like the z-axis is the one that's rotating, so we'll turn off the y, turn off the x, and limit the z. And so it will go from about there to about right there. And it may never solve to that point, but it's good to just allow it to get that far. So the next one is this sliding joint here. Once again, this is sliding, so we'll turn off the rotation. We'll turn on the sliding joint. In this case, the sliding is x once again. And we can kind of tell that it goes from there, roughly, and then to about right there. So that will give us the full sliding there. So now basically all the limits have been set, and this is pretty much ready to go. The one thing now is to add the IK handles. So the way that you add the IK handles is you select the root joint where you want the IK chain to start. In this case, there's 2 IK handles on a jetway. One IK handle that is the center of the sort of mouth of the jetway, which attaches to a point outside of the aircraft. And then the second IK handle is outside of the mouth of the aircraft, and that attaches to a point inside the aircraft. So that way you get that nice attachment to the aircraft with the jetway. So you select the root node because this is the first node that has the rotation on it, and then you select animation IK solvers, IK limb solver, and then you can see the little stretchy line. You go to the bone that you want the base of that bone to be where the IK handle is. So if I select there, you'll see there's an IK handle now there. And if I actually grab that IK handle and move it around, you'll see that, hey, it actually does what's expected. It won't, unfortunately in Max and Gmax, it will not show you sliding joints in IK, which is kind of sad, but they just don't support it. You have to do a different kind of solver in order to visualize it in Max or Gmax, but it will work in the engine. But you can see it does, wherever you pull this is where this is going to try to solve to. So then the next IK handle you want to do is you select this bone there. Once again, IK solver, limb solver, and then you go to this little one at the end here, and now you have 2 IK handles. You have one to control the main, and you'll see it, the main. So if I move there and then I grab this other IK handle and move it here, you can see how it would attach. And once again, you see the limits. It won't go any further than its limits are. The third IK handle is the IK handle that keeps the wheels on the ground. So we're going to select this, and we're going to do the limb solver again. We're going to select that, and now we have an IK handle that basically, if I move this IK handle, it will move the wheels, and because of that sliding joint, if this piece moves up and down, the wheels will stay locked on the ground. So it is important that the IK handles have the correct names, because actually we use the names of the IK handles to determine what happens with them. So this first IK handle goes to the outside of the aircraft. This is called IK main handle. So it's IK space main handle, just like that. The next IK handle, which is the one for the mouth of the jetway, is called IK secondary handle. Once again, IK space secondary handle. just like that. And the last IK handle is called IK space wheels, wheels ground lock, just like that. I don't know if the capitalization is absolutely necessary or not. It's just the way that they're named currently, so probably does not have to be capitalized exactly. So it's probably case insensitive, but there you go. So now that we have this all rigged up, we actually have the jetway. It's rigged. The IK handles are ready to go. So there's one last step actually, and that is the sort of the hood of the jetway. We need it to extend and retract. We've got all our limits set, everything's good to go. So the last step is to get the hood bones in place. You could actually do this before you rigged everything up, but I just decided to hold off. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create 2 bones for the jetway hood. One at the back of the hood, and then one at the front of the hood. And we'll move this one up just a little bit here. There we go, so that it lines up a little better. We're going to link these bones to that bone there. That way they will follow. If this IK handle moves, they will follow along there. So we go back into front view. And now we're going to actually add those bones to the skin. So we'll go ahead and add them in, bone 9 and 10 there. And then we will actually skin the jetway hood first to bone 9. So we'll go into edit envelopes, we'll select all the verts. It's like that. And we'll give them the value of 1. And then what we will do is we'll add envelopes in for bone 10. And what this will do is this will actually, and we're going to turn off the envelopes real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to animate bone 10 here, just like it would sort of be an extension. So we'll go out to this keyframe, turn on animate. Basically we'll kind of extend it to about the position we want it to extend to there. So now what you can do is you can go to that keyframe, you can go back into your skin, and now you can actually edit the envelopes for that bone, and it will, so if we select these here, so let's select these right here and just give them a value of 1. So now it's going to stretch them way out. So now we can grab these and go, say, 0.85, and you just start to go in and 0.7 and make the jetway stretch. 0.55, 0.4, 0.25, 0.1, and this last one will make, say 0.05. So now you can see that as the hood extends, the bones actually stretch, or not the bones, but the vertices actually stretch out. So if we look at it in shaded mode here, let's turn off our envelopes real quick so we can see. So if we go through this animation, you can see the jetway hood extend and retract. So now we want to make sure we have keyframes on this all across the board. So we'll go ahead and select that bone again. We're going to animate, so we'll kind of, you can just go in and fill in some keyframes just to make sure that the pure linear rotation doesn't get optimized. And then you want to set a key on 35, and then go back to 70 and copy your 0 keyframe to 70. So now you have both an extend and a retract animation there. And then we'll go ahead and go in and fill in these a few keyframes in here as well, just to make sure they don't get optimized out. And now you have the complete jetway all totally rigged up, animated, and there's just one last step, which is that we need to take this bone here and we need to annotate it with the jetway hood extension and retraction animations. So from 0 to 34, you scroll down in the animation list, you'll see jetway hood extend. So 0 to 34, create that animation, and then we'll go to the retraction, which is 35 to 70. We'll create that one. Now if we go into the summary, you'll see there's our bone 10 with its extend and retract animations. So now this jetway is all rigged up, and it's all ready to be exported into the sim. So I'm going to save this. I'll just call it rigged for now. And I'm going to go ahead and export this. So I have a MDL already set up, so I'm going to export to that MDL file. I'm going to save the skin and the animations, or export skin and animations. Go OK, and it should be exported. Now if I go to the location of that, which happens to be in my SDK, in the BGL comp, you'll see I've made an XML file that just has the Jetway MDL, so I'm just basically creating a BGL to reference. So if you're creating an airport, you can reference that out of the BGL. So I'll take that XML, I'll run it through BGL comp, and it just updated the Jetway BGL, which contains the MDL file in it. And now I'm just going to copy that into my add-on scenery. And now I will pause real quick and load it up in the sim so you can see what it looks like. Then here you can see the Jetway has attached itself to an aircraft and extended the hood. So there you have it, SeaTac Airport. We got a Jetway working just using the Gmax Jetway that we just created. So that's basically how you rig up and set up a Jetway and make it work in the sim.